The massive ships appeared without warning. One Tuesday morning, the skies above every major city on Earth suddenly darkened as 7 enormous vessels, each the size of a small city, took position in low orbit. Panic spread across the globe as military forces scrambled and governments held emergency meetings. Commander Tom Reed watched the largest ship through the window of the hastily assembled United Earth Defense Force headquarters. At 42, Reed had spent his life preparing for conflicts that never came. Now, facing humanity's first contact with an alien species, he felt strangely calm. "They haven't attacked," he said to General Williams, who stood beside him. "That has to mean something. Or they're just deciding which city to hit first," Williams replied grimly. 3 days passed. The ships remained silent. Earth's attempts at communication went unanswered. Then, on the 4th day, a small shuttle descended from the largest vessel, landing on the neutral grounds of Antarctica, where a diplomatic delegation waited. Reed was chosen to lead the first contact team. As he approached the shuttle, his breath formed clouds in the Antarctic air. The vessel's door opened with a soft hiss, revealing beings that looked almost human but not quite. They stood taller, with skin that shimmered like polished metal, and eyes too large for their narrow faces. "We are the Dominion," said the tallest one in perfect English. "We have been observing your world for some time." Reed extended his hand, unsure if the gesture would be understood. "I'm Commander Tom Reed, representing Earth. We welcome peaceful contact." The alien looked at Reed's hand, but did not take it. "We understand your customs, Commander. We have studied them thoroughly." Over the next few weeks, the aliens, calling themselves the Dominion, proved to be surprisingly forthcoming. They shared information about their vast empire spanning hundreds of worlds. They expressed interest in Earth culture and human achievements. Most importantly, they offered technology beyond human understanding. "This could advance our civilization by centuries," said Dr. Anna Lewis, the lead scientist analyzing the Dominion's gifts. She held up a small cube that supposedly contained the secrets to clean, unlimited energy. "If this works as they claim, it could end our energy crisis overnight." Reed wasn't convinced. "Don't you find it strange they're giving us their technology without asking for anything in return?" Lewis smiled. "Maybe not everyone has ulterior motives, Commander. Sometimes a gift is just a gift." But Reed noticed things the others missed. The way the Dominion representatives studied human reactions, how they asked pointed questions about Earth's defense systems, how they always seemed to be watching. Despite his concerns, Earth's governments eagerly accepted the Dominion's offerings. The alien technology was integrated into power grids, communication networks, and defense systems worldwide. Progress that would have taken decades happened in months. Reed voiced his concerns at a United Nations meeting. "We're moving too fast. We know nothing about these beings or their true intentions." His warnings fell on deaf ears. The promise of technological advancement was too tempting to resist. For 3 months, everything seemed perfect. The Dominion shared more technology. Energy became abundant. Disease rates dropped as alien medical knowledge was applied to human healthcare. The visitors were hailed as saviors. Then, on a quiet Sunday morning, it began. Reed was reviewing security protocols when his computer screen flickered and went dark. He reached for his phone. Dead. Outside his office window, he watched as lights across the city blinked out one by one. "What's happening?" asked his assistant, voice tight with fear. Reed knew instantly. They're making their move. Across the globe, systems failed simultaneously. Power grids collapsed. Communications networks crashed. Military defenses went offline. Hospitals lost power. Planes lost navigation. The technology that had seemed like a blessing revealed itself as a curse. The Dominion's gifts had contained hidden viruses, subtle, patient programs designed to infiltrate, learn, and eventually neutralize every piece of technology humans relied on. It was an invasion without a single shot fired. As darkness fell across Earth's cities, The Dominion ships lit up the sky with massive spotlights. Their message broadcast on every working frequency. People of Earth, your technology has been neutralized. Your military capabilities have been disabled. Your governments are powerless. We claim this world and its resources for the Dominion. Resistance will result in unnecessary suffering. Cooperation will be rewarded. In the following days, the Dominion landed troops, both alien soldiers and robotic enforcers. They secured major cities with minimal bloodshed. Most humans, shocked and overwhelmed, offered little resistance. Reed managed to escape the initial roundup of military personnel. Hiding in an abandoned warehouse, he watched through broken windows as Dominion enforcers patrolled the streets. He had recognized the trap too late. He had failed his species. 1 month after the system's collapse, Reed witnessed the first public address by the Dominion governor. A massive screen in the city center displayed the face of the same alien who had first greeted Reed in Antarctica. Humans will serve an important purpose in the Dominion, the alien announced. Your world contains resources vital to our empire. You will help us extract them. Those who work willingly will be treated fairly. Those who resist will be removed. The screen then showed images of humans being marched into mines and factories. The message was clear. Earth had become a resource extraction colony. That night, Reed found a working radio, old technology the Dominion had ignored as obsolete. He heard scattered reports of resistance, of small groups fighting back with whatever weapons still worked. But these were just pinpricks against the Dominion's overwhelming control. As he huddled in the dark, Reed made a promise to himself. This was not the end. The Dominion had studied human technology, human systems, human weapons, but they had failed to understand something fundamental about the human spirit. Throughout history, humans had faced overwhelming odds and somehow survived. They had endured catastrophes, diseases, wars, and disasters. Each time, they had rebuilt from the ashes. Each time, they had emerged stronger. The Dominion thought they had won. They believed their silent conquest was complete. They were wrong. The real battle was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the day the lights went out across Earth. 5 years of Dominion rule. Tom Reed pulled his worn jacket tighter as he moved through the dense forest. Winter in northern Canada was brutal, but it provided good cover. The Dominion didn't like the cold. Their patrols were less frequent here, their flying machines less likely to scan the thick tree cover when snow fell. The small cabin appeared between the trees, smoke rising from its chimney. It looked like any other hunter's retreat, which was exactly the point. Reed knocked. 3 short, 2 long, and the door opened. "You're late," said Lisa Martins, her face illuminated by the glow of a wood stove. Once a top programmer for a tech company, now she was the Resistance's best hope for understanding Dominion technology. "Patrol on the old highway," Reed explained, stomping snow from his boots. "Had to take the long way." Inside, 6 people huddled around a table covered with maps and hand-drawn diagrams. 5 years ago, they had been ordinary people, a teacher, a nurse, a construction worker, a college student, and a mechanic. Now they were soldiers in a war most of humanity had already accepted as lost. "Show him what you found, Lisa," said Mike Foster, the mechanic whose hands were perpetually stained with grease and dirt. Lisa pulled out a strange device, a mix of Dominion technology and human components. "I've been studying the patterns in their communication network," she explained. "The Dominion might be advanced, but they're predictable. Their systems operate on cycles, like clockwork." Reed leaned closer. "How does that help us?" "It means we can predict when their systems will be more vulnerable," Lisa said, her eyes bright with excitement. "All technology has weaknesses, even theirs." Across the room, Ben Taylor cleaned an old rifle. "Great. So while you figure out how to hack alien tech, the rest of us will just fight their robots with bullets and hope." Reed understood Ben's frustration. Conventional weapons barely scratched Dominion enforcers. The resistance had been reduced to hit-and-run tactics, small victories that sometimes felt pointless against the scale of their defeat. "We received a transmission from London," said Emma Green, who operated their radio. Once a teacher, now she coordinated communication between scattered resistance cells. Dr. Wilson made contact. This caught Reed's attention. James Wilson had been a leading physicist before the invasion. He'd gone underground in London, working with salvaged Dominion technology. "What did he say?" Reed asked. Emma played the message, scratchy and filled with static, but clear enough. "Found their weakness. Communication relies on specific frequency range. Disrupting it causes cascade failure in enforcer units. Need more equipment. Time running out. They're closing in." The message ended with coordinates for a Dominion processing facility where the necessary equipment could be found. "If Wilson's right, this could change everything," Lisa said. Reed studied the facility location on their map. It was heavily guarded, but not impossible to reach. "We'll need a distraction," he said. For the next week, they planned the raid. Other resistance cells were contacted using old radio equipment operating on frequencies the Dominion considered too primitive to monitor. 3 groups would coordinate, one to create a distraction several miles from the facility, another to cut power to the perimeter sensors, and Reed's team to infiltrate and obtain the equipment. The night of the raid came with a heavy snowfall. Perfect cover. Reed, Lisa, and Mike approached the facility's east fence as planned. The distant sound of explosions told them the distraction team had done their job. "Perimeter sensors should be down now," Lisa whispered, checking her watch. Reed cut through the fence, and they slipped inside. The facility was massive. A factory where humans worked under Dominion supervision, processing Earth minerals for shipment off-world. The equipment they needed was in a secured section. Getting there meant navigating through areas patrolled by enforcer units, 8-foot-tall robotic guardians with sensors that could detect human heartbeats. Mike pulled out a device he'd built from scraps. This might confuse their sensors for a few minutes. No guarantees. They activated the device and moved quickly through the shadows. Twice they froze as enforcers passed nearby. But Mike's contraption worked. The robots continued their patrol without noticing them. In the secured section, Lisa quickly identified the components they needed. "This is part of their communication array," she explained, disconnecting the cube-shaped device. "And this," she pointed to a larger unit, "is what Wilson described." As they were packing the equipment, alarms blared through the facility. "That's not for us," Reed said, peering through a window. "Look." Outside, a group of human workers had started fighting their supervisors. The resistance had spread further than Reed knew. These weren't his people. "We need to help them," Mike said. Reed shook his head. "We can't. Not now. What we're carrying could end this war. We have to get it back." It was the hardest order he'd ever given, watching as Dominion enforcers moved in on the rebelling workers. But they escaped during the chaos, the precious technology secure in their packs. 2 days later, back at their hideout, Lisa connected with Wilson using a modified Dominion communication device. "The frequency disruptor works." Wilson's voice came through, clearer this time. "I've tested it on a disabled enforcer unit. Complete shutdown. But there's more." His voice became urgent. "They'd found me. I'm transmitting the complete schematics now. Use them. Remember the frequency." The transmission cut off abruptly. Lisa looked at the data that had come through. "He got it all to us," she said quietly. "Everything we need to build our own disruptors." Reed looked around at his small team, their faces lit by the glow of the alien device. For the first time in 5 years, he felt something he'd almost forgotten: hope. "The Dominion thinks they won because they have superior technology," he said, "but they don't understand humans. We don't give up. We adapt. We find ways to fight back when there shouldn't be any." Mike grinned, already examining the schematics, "And we're pretty good at breaking things." Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering their tracks. In hideouts across the globe, Other resistance cells were waiting for word, for a plan, for a chance to fight back. The Dominion's hold on Earth seemed unbreakable. But the tide was about to turn. 3 weeks after the raid, Mike Foster's hands were bloody from working nonstop. Not from wounds, but from the constant handling of metal parts and wires as he built device after device based on Wilson's schematics. "Try it now," he said to Lisa, wiping sweat from his forehead with his forearm. Lisa activated the small, oddly shaped device. It hummed quietly, lights blinking in sequence. "Power output stable," she reported, checking the readings. "If Wilson's calculations are right, this should disrupt Dominion communication within a 50-foot radius." Reed picked up the device, turning it over in his hands. It was smaller than he expected, about the size of an old smartphone. "Can we make more?" Mike nodded. "Components are the problem. We'd need to raid more Dominion facilities." Their hideout had changed. What was once a simple cabin was now a workshop filled with salvaged Dominion technology mixed with old human electronics. The resistance had grown too. 20 people now, as survivors from nearby areas joined after hearing rumors of a way to fight back. Emma burst into the room, excitement clear on her face. "Message from the Boston cell," she said. "They found something big." The message was brief. "Crashed scout ship recovered. Mostly intact. Need technical assistance." Reed looked at Mike and Lisa. "This changes everything." 3 days later, they arrived at the Boston cell's hideout, an abandoned subway station beneath the ruins of the city. The scout ship sat in what had once been a maintenance bay, its sleek form looking alien among the human surroundings. "Hit by lightning during a storm," explained Jack, the Boston cell leader. "Crashed in the harbor. We got to it before the Dominion recovery teams." The ship was small, designed for 2 Dominion pilots. One section was damaged, but the main systems appeared intact. Mike circled it, eyes wide with wonder. "They'll be looking for this," Reed warned. Jack nodded. "We've been moving it every few days. So far, we've stayed ahead of them." For the next month, Mike and Lisa worked with the Boston team to understand the ship. Progress was slow. Dominion technology was advanced, but they discovered something unexpected. It wasn't as complex as they feared. "It's their arrogance," Lisa explained one night as they reviewed their findings. They built their systems to be resistant to advanced hacking attempts, but they never considered simpler approaches. Mike demonstrated by connecting a jury-rigged device to the ship's control panel. The device was crude, a mix of old human electronics and repurposed Dominion parts. Yet somehow it interfaced with the ship's systems. "They're so advanced they've forgotten the basics," Mike said, like a chess master who studies complex strategies but misses a simple move. Reed watched as Mike's device bypassed the ship's security protocols. "Can we fly it?" "Not yet," Lisa replied, "but we can access its communication systems. And more importantly, we can use it to understand how the Dominion's network functions." This discovery led to another breakthrough. By analyzing the ship's communication logs, Lisa found that the Dominion relied heavily on a centralized network. Individual units, from enforcer robots to scout ships, had limited autonomy. They needed constant connection to the main network. "That's why the frequency disruptors work," she explained. "Cut off from the network, they can't function properly." Reed saw the potential immediately. "If we could disrupt their communications on a larger scale, we'd need something more powerful than these portable units," Mike said. "The ship's transmitter," Lisa suggested. "We could modify it." As they worked on the ship, Reed coordinated with resistance cells worldwide using old radio equipment. The plan was taking shape: synchronized attacks using the frequency disruptors, targeting Dominion control centers. But they needed more. The portable disruptors had limited range, and the modified ship transmitter could only affect one area. They needed a way to spread the disruption globally. The answer came from an unexpected source. A new arrival to their group, Paul, a former satellite engineer, suggested using Earth's old satellite network. "Most satellites are still in orbit," he explained. The Dominion disabled them but didn't destroy them. If we could reactivate just a few and modify them to broadcast the disruption frequency. It was a long shot, but it gave them a target. They needed access to a ground-based satellite control station. The closest one was heavily guarded, a Dominion Regional Command Center. Reed planned the mission carefully. It would be their biggest operation yet, requiring coordination between multiple resistance cells. They would use the scout ship as bait, making it appear as if humans were trying to escape Earth in a stolen vessel. On the day of the mission, Reed stood before the assembled resistance fighters. These were ordinary people, teachers, doctors, construction workers, now preparing for battle against an alien force. The Dominion thinks they know us, Reed told them. They've studied our technology, our warfare, our history. But they missed something important. Throughout human history, we've faced disasters, plagues, wars. Each time, some thought it was the end. It never was. We survived. We rebuilt. We adapted. The fighters nodded, their faces showing determination despite the odds against them. Today, we use their arrogance against them, Reed continued. They believe their technology makes them invincible. They don't understand that humans have always found ways to overcome superior forces. We turn disadvantages into advantages. We improvise. We overcome. As dawn broke, the modified scout ship took off, piloted by Mike. Its communication system had been altered to broadcast a specific signal, one that would attract maximum Dominion attention. Meanwhile, Reed led a team toward the satellite control center. They carried the portable disruptors, each fighter knowing their role. Other teams moved into position around key Dominion facilities worldwide, waiting for the signal. The Dominion responded exactly as predicted. Forces were diverted to chase the scout ship, leaving the control center with reduced protection. When Reed's team activated their disruptors, the remaining enforcers froze, their connection to the network suddenly cut. Inside the control center, Lisa and Paul worked frantically to reactivate the satellite systems. It was a race against time. The Dominion would soon realize the scout ship was a diversion. Almost there, Lisa muttered, fingers flying over the controls. The old systems came to life, screens lighting up after years of darkness. Paul established connections to 3 key satellites, ready to transmit the disruption frequency. Reed looked at the countdown timer. Teams worldwide were in position, waiting for this moment. Now, he ordered. Lisa pressed the final command. The satellites activated, broadcasting the disruption frequency across their coverage areas. The effect was immediate. Throughout the region, Dominion enforcers stopped moving. Communication systems went silent. For the first time in 5 years, humans had gained the upper hand, if only temporarily. Reed knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion would adapt, find ways to counter this attack. But humans had proven something vital. The invaders weren't invincible. The real fight was just starting. The temporary victory at the satellite control center gave the resistance something they hadn't felt in years: momentum. But Reed knew it wouldn't last long. The Dominion was already adapting, creating workarounds for the disruption frequency. They're switching to backup communication channels, Lisa reported, studying the data they gathered. We have maybe 2 weeks before our current method becomes useless. Reed gathered the resistance leaders in their new headquarters, a network of abandoned mining tunnels. Representatives from cells across North America had arrived, bringing reports of similar temporary successes and inevitable Dominion countermeasures. We need something bigger, Reed said. The disruption attacks bought us time, but the Dominion is learning. Lisa stepped forward, dark circles under her eyes from sleepless nights spent analyzing Dominion code. I have an idea. We've been trying to destroy their systems, but what if we manipulate them instead? She explained her plan. Rather than simply disrupting Dominion communications, they could insert false data into their network. The aliens relied so heavily on their systems that they might not question the information they received. A virus? Asked one of the cell leaders. Not exactly, Lisa said. "More like a deception program. It won't destroy anything. It will subtly alter the information they receive." Mike, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "We could use the scout ship. Its communication system is already recognized as friendly by their network." The plan took shape. Using the scout ship, a small team would approach the Dominion command vessel orbiting Earth. They wouldn't attack. They would transmit Lisa's deception program directly into the heart of the alien network. "What kind of false information are we talking about?" Reed asked. Lisa smiled. "Something they would never ignore. A massive uprising on one of their core worlds." The plan was audacious. It required not just technical expertise but perfect timing. While the Dominion was distracted by the false crisis, resistance cells worldwide would launch coordinated attacks on key facilities. For 2 weeks, they prepared. The scout ship was modified to avoid detection. Lisa worked day and night perfecting her deception program, testing it against the ship's systems. Meanwhile, Reed received an unexpected message from an underground resistance cell in what had once been Tokyo. They had made contact with Dr. James Wilson. He was alive. They moved him to a research facility. The message explained, "He's being forced to work on Dominion technology. Says he can help from the inside if we create a distraction." The mission was set for dawn. Reed selected his team carefully. Lisa to handle the technical aspects, Mike to pilot the ship, and himself to make decisions if things went wrong. Only 3 people to minimize risk. The night before launch, Reed found Lisa staring at the scout ship. "Having doubts?" he asked. She shook her head, "Just thinking about how strange this is. 5 years ago, I was debugging financial software. Now I'm creating a virus to deceive an alien empire." "Not a virus," Reed corrected with a smile. "A deception program." Lisa laughed. "The Dominion thought they were so superior. They never imagined we'd use their own systems against them." At dawn, the scout ship rose silently from its hiding place. Mike had mastered the alien controls, handling the vessel as if he'd been flying it his whole life. "Remember," Reed reminded them, "we're not trying to fight our way in. This is all about stealth." The journey to low orbit was tense. They flew through gaps in the Dominion sensor network, using routes mapped by resistance observers. As Earth fell away beneath them, the main Dominion command vessel came into view, a massive structure resembling a dark metal snowflake, with extensions spreading outward from a central hub. Receiving automated identification request, Lisa reported as alert sounds came from the ship's console, responding with the captured authentication codes. Seconds stretched like hours as they waited to see if the deception would work. Finally, the alert sounds stopped. "We're cleared," Lisa said, disbelief in her voice. "They think we're a returning scout mission." Mike guided the ship toward a docking bay near the outer edge of the command vessel. "Less traffic there," he explained. "Less chance of someone noticing we don't belong." Once docked, they moved quickly. The bay was automated, with no Dominion personnel present. Lisa connected her equipment to an access terminal, her fingers moving with practiced precision. "Uploading the deception program now," she whispered, though there was no one to hear them. "It will spread through their network, gradually altering data streams." The upload took 3 minutes. When it finished, Lisa checked the confirmation. "It's in. Now we wait." They didn't have to wait long. Alarms began sounding throughout the command vessel. Announcements in the Dominion language echoed through the corridors. "What are they saying?" Reed asked. Lisa had learned enough of the Dominion language to understand the basics. Emergency protocols activated. Something about a sector-wide rebellion in their home systems. "It's working," Mike said with a grin. Through the docking bay viewports, they watched as shuttles began launching from the command vessel. The Dominion was redeploying forces to address the non-existent threat. "Send the signal," Reed ordered. Lisa activated the secure transmitter they had brought. The signal would reach all resistance cells worldwide, telling them to begin their coordinated attacks. As they prepared to leave, A message came through on their own secure channel. It was from Dr. Wilson. Dominion systems compromised on my end. The message read, "Internal communication networks affected. Safe journey home." From his forced position inside the Dominion research facility, Wilson had seized the opportunity provided by the confusion to amplify the deception from within. The return journey was even more tense than the approach. The command vessel was in chaos, but that meant unpredictable movements and heightened security. Mike navigated through the confusion, using the distraction to their advantage. As they re-entered Earth's atmosphere, reports began coming in from around the world. Resistance cells were attacking Dominion facilities, facing minimal opposition as the aliens struggled with contradictory information and malfunctioning communication systems. Boston reporting successful takeover of Regional Control Center. London has secured 3 enforcement hubs. Sydney team has captured a landing field with 5 intact shuttlecraft. For the first time since the invasion, humans were winning. When they landed at the Resistance base, cheers greeted them. Reed stepped out of the ship, looking at the faces around him. Hopeful, determined, no longer defeated. "The Dominion is in disarray," he announced. "But this isn't over. They'll figure out the deception eventually." One of the younger fighters stepped forward. "What happens then?" Reed looked up at the sky, where the command vessel was still visible as a dark spot against the blue. "Then we face their full fury, and we'll need to be ready." The true test was yet to come, but humanity had proven something important. The Dominion could be outsmarted. Intelligence could overcome technology. Deception could defeat power. The balance had shifted. The Dominion's confusion lasted 4 days. 4 precious days during which humanity reclaimed ground across the globe. Cities were liberated. Dominion facilities captured. Human prisoners freed. Then the deception program was discovered. Reed was coordinating operations from the Resistance headquarters when the first reports came in. "Dominion forces are reorganizing." A voice crackled over the radio. "Boston under heavy attack. Enforcers operating at full capacity again." Similar reports flooded in from around the world. The Dominion had realized they'd been tricked, and their response was swift and furious. "They're not just trying to recapture lost ground," Lisa said, analyzing incoming data. "They're punishing us." Reed watched grimly as reports of Dominion brutality increased. Towns that had celebrated freedom were being razed. The aliens were making examples of those who had dared to resist. "We knew this would happen," Reed reminded everyone. "But we're in a better position now than we were a week ago." It was true. Despite the Dominion's renewed attacks, humanity held key facilities and resources. Most importantly, they had captured enough Dominion technology to understand their enemy better than ever before. Dr. Wilson, finally free from his captivity, arrived at the headquarters with critical information. His time working for the Dominion had given him insight into their ultimate plans for Earth. "They're building something in orbit," he explained, showing schematics he had memorized. "A device capable of altering Earth's atmosphere. If activated, it would make our planet uninhabitable for humans, but perfect for Dominion colonization." The weapon platform was nearly complete. The Dominion, enraged by the human deception, had accelerated their timeline. "How long do we have?" Reed asked. 3 days, maybe 4, Wilson replied. "Once it's operational, Earth is finished." They needed a new plan. The deception had worked once, but the Dominion wouldn't fall for the same trick twice. This time, they would need to confront their enemy directly. Reed called a meeting of all Resistance leaders who could attend or connect via radio. "We need to destroy that platform," he told them. "Everything else is secondary." The plan they developed was bold. Using captured Dominion shuttles, strike teams would launch simultaneous attacks on 3 targets: the command vessel, the weapon platform, and the main ground control center. The attacks would be coordinated with a new disruption frequency Wilson had developed, one the Dominion hadn't yet adapted to. It was a desperate gamble, but they had no choice. Earth's future depended on success. The night before the mission, Reed found himself standing under the stars, looking up at the faint lights moving across the sky, Dominion ships preparing for humanity's destruction. Mike joined him, worried about tomorrow. Reed nodded. We've come so far. Accomplished more than I thought possible. But tomorrow we either win or lose everything. Mike finished for him. At least we're going down fighting. The assault began at dawn. 3 teams lifted off and captured Dominion shuttles, each heading for their assigned target. Reed led the team targeting the weapon platform. Lisa and Wilson coordinated from the ground, ready to implement the new disruption frequency. The journey to orbit was tense but uneventful. The Dominion, still recovering from the deception attack, had gaps in their defense network. Reed's shuttle approached the massive weapon platform, its dark metal structure already aimed at Earth below. Receiving automated clearance request, reported the pilot, another former mechanic who had learned to fly alien craft, responding with captured codes. For a moment, it seemed the approach would be smooth, then alarms blared throughout the shuttle. They've detected us. Defensive systems activating. The shuttle rocked as energy weapons fired from the platform. The pilot dodged skillfully, but a hit to their engines sent them spinning toward the platform. We're going to crash, someone shouted. Aim for the main docking bay, Reed ordered. Somehow, the pilot managed to direct their uncontrolled descent. The shuttle crashed through the bay entrance, skidding across the floor in a shower of sparks before coming to a stop. Half the team was injured in the crash. Reed organized the survivors, distributing weapons and explosives. Remember the plan. We need to reach the core and plant the charges. They fought their way through the platform, facing both Dominion soldiers and Enforcer robots. The new disruption devices helped, causing nearby Enforcers to malfunction, but the aliens had already implemented partial countermeasures. Reed's team suffered losses with each section they secured. By the time they reached the central core, only Reed and 2 others remained. Set the charges, he ordered, keeping watch for enemy reinforcements. One of his teammates, a young woman named Tara, worked quickly, placing explosives at key points around the core. Charges set. 10-minute timer. As they turned to leave, a squad of Dominion soldiers blocked their path. Reed and his remaining fighters took cover as energy weapons fired around them. We're trapped, said Jones, the other surviving team member. Reed looked at the charges, then at the limited cover they had. You 2 go. I'll hold them off. That's suicide, Tara protested. The charges have to detonate. Earth depends on it. Reed checked his weapon. I'll buy you time. Before they could argue further, he broke from cover, firing at the Dominion soldiers. His diversion worked. Tara and Jones slipped away through a side passage as the aliens focused on Reed. Fighting desperately, Reed managed to hold the aliens back, but soon found himself cornered. Enemy reinforcements arrived. He was outnumbered, outgunned, with nowhere to run. Then a voice echoed through the platform. Not human, but Dominion. Reed recognized the alien language he'd heard during their first contact, years ago. It was coming from the command center. The Dominion soldiers suddenly lowered their weapons. A tall figure approached, clearly a high-ranking official based on its ornate armor. Commander Reed, it said in perfect English. Your species continues to surprise us. Reed kept his weapon raised. What's happening? Your other teams have succeeded. Your Dr. Wilson has taken control of our command vessel's communication systems. Your fighter teams have captured our ground control center. Reed could hardly believe what he was hearing. So you're surrendering. The Dominion commander made a gesture Reed couldn't interpret. We are reassessing. This weapon, it gestured around them, was our final solution for Earth. You have proven more resourceful than our studies indicated possible. The timer on the charges continued counting down. Reed said nothing about them. No species has ever resisted us successfully, the alien continued. Yet humans, with inferior technology and resources, have managed what many thought impossible. Reed finally understood. Your offering terms. We will withdraw from Earth. Your species has earned its freedom and our respect. The alien seemed sincere, but Reed had learned caution. And the charges my team planted. The ones about to destroy this station. The Dominion commander's large eyes blinked. Disarm them, and we will begin our withdrawal immediately. Reed had a decision to make. Trust the word of an enemy who had already betrayed humanity once, or ensure Earth's safety through destruction. There's a third option, Reed said. You withdraw first. Prove your intentions. Then we discuss disarming the charges. For a tense moment, the alien was silent. Then it nodded, a human gesture it had clearly learned. Very well. The withdrawal begins now. Over the next hours, Reed watched as Dominion ships began leaving Earth orbit. Wilson confirmed from the command vessel that the retreat was genuine. The aliens were actually leaving. Standing on the captured weapon platform, Reed looked down at Earth below, scared, damaged, but free. Humanity had done what should have been impossible. They had defeated a technologically superior enemy through determination, adaptability, and refusal to surrender. As the last Dominion ships disappeared into deep space, Reed activated his radio. This is Commander Reed to all resistance cells. Victory is confirmed. I repeat, victory is confirmed. Earth is ours again. Across the planet, celebrations began. The long nightmare was over. Rebuilding would be difficult, but humans were good at starting over. They always had been. The silent failure had led to an epic victory. Humanity had defied the odds. Captain Jack Morgan felt a knot in his stomach as he stared at the massive Galactic Council station through the main window of his ship. The station looked like a giant metal flower floating in space, with long docking arms stretching out like petals. His ship, the Defiant, was heading toward one of those arms now. Docking procedures starting, Captain, said his pilot, Ben. Jack nodded. Take us in slow. Let's not give them any reason to be suspicious. The Defiant was officially listed as a mining vessel in all Galactic Council records. Its hull was painted with the logo of Earth Mining Corporation, and its cargo holds were filled with equipment that could indeed mine asteroids. But hidden beneath that ordinary exterior was a ship with power that pushed right up against what humans were allowed to build. 50 years ago, humans had joined the Galactic Council after fighting off an attack by the Kreth, a lizard-like alien race that had expected an easy victory. The humans' unexpectedly strong defense had scared many Council species. As a result, when Earth joined the Council, they were forced to sign the Treaty of Sol. The treaty had many rules, but one stood out. Humans could not build warships above Class 3 specifications. This meant no ships bigger than 300 meters, no weapons stronger than medium-range lasers, and no advanced shielding systems. The Council said this was normal for new species. Jack knew that was a lie. Council Inspector requesting permission to board, Captain, reported Lisa, the communications officer. Permission granted, Jack said, straightening his uniform. Let's give Inspector Turan the usual tour. Jack walked to the docking bay, rehearsing in his mind the official story about their mission. They were heading to the Arcturus system for a routine mining operation. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would make the Council suspicious. The airlock hissed open, revealing Inspector Turan. He was a Volari, a species with blue skin, 4 arms, and eyes that could see in spectrums humans couldn't. This made him perfect for his job, finding things humans try to hide. Captain Morgan, Torrance said with a slight bow. Another year, another inspection. Jack forced a smile. Always a pleasure, Inspector. Would you like to start with the engine room or the cargo hold this time? The weapons systems, I think, Torrance said, his eyes narrowing slightly. I've heard reports that Earth Mining Corporation has been upgrading their defensive capabilities. Jack kept his face neutral even as his heart beat faster. Standard upgrades only, I assure you. We've had some trouble with pirates in the outer systems. Of course, Torrance said, not sounding convinced. Lead the way. As they walked through the corridors of the Defiant, Jack greeted his crew with nods. Everyone knew to be on their best behavior. The ship had been carefully prepared for inspection, with certain systems locked down and others disguised. "These are our main defensive arrays," Jack explained as they entered the weapons control room. The displays showed standard rail cannons and point defense systems, all technically legal, but pushing every definition to its limit. Toran ran his scanning device over the consoles. "Impressive output for defensive weapons," he commented. "Mining in deep space is dangerous work," Jack replied evenly. After 4 hours of detailed inspection, they reached the engine room. Chief Engineer Marcus was waiting, his hands clean, but his uniform showing signs of recent work. "Inspector," Marcus nodded. "Everything is running at standard capacity." Toran moved around the engine room slowly, running his scanner over various components. He paused at the main power core. "This output reading seems high for a mining vessel," he said, looking at Jack with suspicious eyes. Jack had rehearsed for this moment. "We're carrying extra equipment for the Arcturus operation. The power requirements are higher than usual." Toran made a note in his device but didn't argue further. After completing his inspection, he returned to the airlock with Jack. "Your ship passes inspection, Captain," Toran said formally. "Though I admit I'm curious why a mining vessel needs so much capability." Jack maintained his professional smile. "The frontier of space is full of surprises, Inspector. We like to be prepared." "Indeed," Toran replied. "The Council appreciates Earth's continued compliance with the treaty. Safe travels to Arcturus." After Toran left, Jack returned to the bridge, letting out a long breath. "Status report," he ordered. "Inspector's shuttle is returning to the station," Lisa reported. "No indication they detected anything unusual." "Good," Jack said, dropping into his captain's chair. "Set course for Arcturus as soon as we're clear of the station." His second-in-command, Maya, approached with a datapad. "The real mission brief, sir," she said quietly, handing it to him. Jack looked at the classified information. What the Council didn't know, what they could never know until it was too late, was that the Arcturus mining operation was actually the location of humanity's secret shipyard. Hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, Earth's engineers were building something the treaty explicitly forbade. Warships that would make the Defiant look like a toy. Project Threshold, they called it. 12 ships, each nearly a kilometer long, with weapons that could tear through the strongest known shields. Ships that could defend Earth when the Council failed them. "How much longer until the first ship is ready?" Jack asked Maya. 3 months, she replied. "The Vindicator will be the first, followed by the others at 2-week intervals." Jack nodded, looking at the stars through the viewport. Humanity had spent 50 years playing by the Council's rules, pretending to be the obedient newcomers. But they had also spent 50 years preparing for the day those rules would no longer protect them. "Let's hope we have those 3 months," he said quietly. As the Defiant pulled away from the Council station, Jack thought about the true nature of their mission. They weren't just transporting supplies to Arcturus. They were carrying key components that couldn't be manufactured at the secret shipyard, the final pieces needed to bring the Vindicator to life. Every instinct told him they were running out of time. Intelligence reports showed increased Kreth activity near human space. The Council patrols that were supposed to protect new members were increasingly distant. "Captain," Lisa called out, "we're receiving a priority message from Admiral Wilson." Jack tensed. "Put it through to my quarters." In the privacy of his room, Jack opened the encrypted message. Admiral Kate Wilson's face appeared, her expression grim. "Captain Morgan, we've detected Kreth scout ships near Neptune. The Council claims it's a routine survey mission, but our analysts disagree. Proceed to Arcturus with all speed. Project Threshold may need to be activated sooner than we planned." Jack closed the message, feeling the weight of what was coming. The treaty's shadow had hung over humanity for 50 years. Soon, they would step into the light. and the galaxy would remember why the Kreth invasion of Earth had been the shortest in their history. 3 days. That's how long it had taken humans to drive back an advanced alien fleet with technology centuries behind their attackers. The Council hadn't restricted humans because they were dangerous. They had restricted humans because they feared how dangerous they might become. They were about to find out. 3 months after Captain Jack's meeting with Inspector Turan, alarms screamed through Earth's orbital command center. Red lights flashed on walls as officers ran to their stations. In the center of the room, a large holographic display showed the solar system. Near Neptune, dozens of red dots appeared. Admiral Kate Wilson strode into the command center, her face tight with worry. Officers snapped to attention as she entered. "Report," she ordered, her eyes fixed on the display. Colonel James Reed stepped forward. "Kreth ships, Admiral. A full battle fleet just came out of faster-than-light travel near Neptune. They're heading toward the outer colonies." Kate's stomach turned cold. This was what Earth had feared for 50 years. "Where is the nearest Council patrol?" James hesitated before answering. "They say their closest ships are 2 weeks away." 2 weeks. Kate's voice was sharp with anger. "They promised protection. The Defense Pact clearly states, the Kreth are calling this a resource acquisition operation, not an invasion," James explained. "According to them, it doesn't trigger the Council's defense requirements." Kate looked around at the worried faces of her officers. They all knew what this meant. The Galactic Council had abandoned them. Earth was on its own. "Get me the Joint Chiefs," she ordered. "Emergency meeting in 5 minutes." In the underground war room beneath Geneva, Earth's military leaders gathered around a conference table. Screens on the walls showed the approaching Kreth fleet. "They'll reach the Neptune colony in 6 hours," General Tom Hayes said. "Our defenses there can hold for maybe 2 hours at most." "What about evacuation?" asked Admiral Rodriguez. "Started, but there's not enough time," Tom replied. "We're looking at thousands of casualties, minimum." Kate looked at the grim faces around the table. "We all know why we're here. We need to decide. Do we maintain the Treaty of Sol and watch our people die, or do we activate Project Threshold?" Silence fell over the room. Breaking the treaty would have serious consequences. The Council could expel Earth from the Alliance, impose harsh sanctions, or worse. Defense Minister Anna Lee spoke first. "What exactly do the Kreth want?" "Intelligence suggests they're after the helium-3 reserves in Neptune's atmosphere," Kate answered. "But this is more than a resource grab. It's a test. They want to see if the Council will defend us." "And the Council has failed that test," Tom said bitterly. Kate nodded. "We should assume we stand alone." The room was quiet as each person considered what was at stake. Earth's conventional forces, the ships that complied with treaty limits, were no match for a Kreth battle fleet. "How ready is Project Threshold?" asked Tom. Kate pulled up a secure file on her tablet. "The Vindicator is fully operational. The other 11 ships are in various stages of completion, but at least 8 can be combat-ready within hours." "Those ships violate every restriction in the treaty," Anna warned. "The Council will expel us." "Better expelled than extinct," Kate replied, her voice hard. The Joint Chiefs looked at each other, one by one. They nodded. "Let's vote," said Kate. "All in favor of activating Project Threshold." Every hand in the room went up. Kate took a deep breath. "Then it's decided. Send the authorization code to all hidden shipyards. Project Threshold is now active." Captain Jack Morgan was overseeing the final tests of the Vindicator's weapon systems when the alert came through. The massive ship, hidden inside the hollowed-out asteroid in the Arcturus belt, was nearly complete. At 950 meters long, with weapons that could tear through any known shields, it was exactly the kind of warship the treaty forbidden. Jack's communication officer ran up to him, holding a secure tablet. "Captain, priority message from Admiral Wilson." Jack took the tablet and read the message, his face growing serious. "Sound General Quarters. All personnel to battle stations. We're deploying immediately. His second-in-command, Maya Reed, looked shocked. Sir, we're still running final tests on the main guns. Tests are over, Jack said grimly. The Kreth are attacking Neptune. The Council won't help. We're Earth's only hope. Throughout the secret shipyard, similar scenes played out as captains received their orders. Ships that had been disguised as station modules and orbital habitats revealed their true nature. Weapon systems powered up. Engines that had been hidden from Council inspectors for years roared to life. Within 1 hour, 12 ships, each far larger and more powerful than anything humans were supposed to have, broke free from their hiding places and jumped to faster-than-light speed. On Earth, Kate watched the holographic display with tense anticipation. The Kreth fleet had reached Neptune and started their attack. The colony's defenses were failing fast. Ma'am, her aide said quietly. The Vindicator and 7 other ships from Project Threshold have acknowledged the activation order. They'll reach Neptune in 40 minutes. Kate nodded. What about the Council? Any response to our distress call? They've updated their estimate. Their ships won't arrive for 3 weeks now. Kate's jaw tightened. For 50 years, Earth had kept its part of the bargain. They had joined the Council, followed the rules, and trusted the promise of protection. Now, when they needed help most, that promise was broken. Send a message to all Earth colonies and outposts, Kate ordered. Code Phoenix. Repeat. Code Phoenix. Throughout human space, military commanders received the code and understood its meaning. The Treaty of Sol was no longer in effect. All hidden weapons and ships were now authorized for use. For half a century, humanity had prepared for this day in secret. Hidden shipyards activated. Concealed weapon platforms powered up. Defense systems that had been disguised as scientific equipment revealed their true purpose. The Council will consider this a violation of the treaty, her aide warned. They violated it first when they abandoned us, Kate replied. Send one final message to the Council. Tell them Earth formally invokes Article 7 of the treaty, the right to self-defense when Council protection fails. Kate looked at the display showing the Kreth ships bombarding the Neptune colony. Nearly 5,000 humans lived there. Families, children, people who trusted their government to protect them. We're done being helpless, she said quietly. It's time the galaxy remembers why the Kreth invasion of Earth was the shortest in their history. In the darkness of space, Earth's forbidden fleet raced toward Neptune, about to reveal humanity's best-kept secret and change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The breaking point had come. There was no turning back now. Captain Jack Morgan stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, his eyes fixed on the main screen. The ship was no longer pretending to be a mining vessel. This was Earth's first true battleship since the Treaty of Sol, nearly a kilometer long and armed with weapons that made the Council's restrictions seem like a joke. All systems ready, Captain, reported Maya Reed, now his executive officer. Her face was serious but calm. The other ships are in position. Jack nodded. Status of the Kreth fleet. They're still bombarding the Neptune colony, said the tactical officer Dan. They don't know we're here. 8 ships from Project Threshold had reached the Neptune system. They were hidden behind the planet's largest moon, Triton, waiting for Jack's order. 4 more ships would arrive within the hour. What about the colony? Jack asked. Main dome is holding, but they've lost 3 of 5 outer habitats. Maya said, her voice tight. Casualties are high, sir. Jack felt anger rising in his chest. The Neptune colony was home to almost 5,000 people, families who had built new lives on the edge of the solar system. Now they were paying the price for the Council's betrayal. Communications, patch me through to all ships, Jack ordered. Lisa, the communications officer, nodded. Channel open. Sir. Jack took a deep breath. This is Captain Morgan to all Earth vessels. For 50 years, we've lived under rules meant to keep us weak. Today, those rules end. The Kreth think they're facing outdated defense platforms and small patrol ships. They're about to learn how wrong they are." He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. They were ready. They'd trained for this moment for years. "Our mission is simple: protect our people and show the galaxy that humanity will not be left defenseless." Battle Formation Alpha. Weapons free. Jack nodded to Lisa. "Send." Throughout the small fleet, captains received the message and prepared their ships. These weren't random vessels thrown together in desperation. They were part of a careful plan, each ship designed to work with the others. "All ships acknowledge, Captain," Lisa reported. "They're ready." Jack sat in his command chair, his back straight. "Helm, take us out. Full speed." The massive ships moved from behind Triton in perfect formation. On the tactical display, Jack could see the Kreth fleet, 30 vessels arranged in a standard attack pattern. They were still focused on bombarding the colony, not expecting any significant resistance. "They'd spotted us," Dan reported as alerts flashed on his screen. "They're confused, sir. They're trying to figure out what we are." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Let's help them understand. Target their command ship. Main guns only." The Vindicator's massive railguns locked onto the largest Kreth vessel. Each gun fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, far more powerful than anything a Class 3 human ship could possess. "Fire," Jack ordered. The ship shuddered slightly as the railguns fired. On the screen, they watched as the projectiles crossed the space between the ships in seconds. They slammed into the Kreth command ship, tearing through its shields like they weren't there. The Kreth vessel split apart in a silent explosion, debris scattering across space. Silence fell over the bridge as everyone stared at the screen in shock. Even Jack was surprised by the weapon's effectiveness. The Kreth ship, a dreadnought-class vessel that should have been able to withstand heavy fire, had been destroyed with a single volley. "All ships, engage targets," Jack said, breaking the silence. "Protect the colony at all costs." The battle that followed would be remembered throughout human space for generations. Earth's forbidden fleet moved with practiced precision, their weapons tearing through Kreth ships that had never expected to face such resistance. The Kreth tried to regroup, to form a defensive line, but they were caught out of position. 3 more of their ships exploded under concentrated fire from the human vessels. "Sir, 5 Kreth ships are breaking off," Maya reported. "They're heading for the colony. I think they're going to try to destroy it before retreating." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Not on my watch. Vindicator and Defiance, pursue those ships. All other vessels, continue engaging the main fleet." The Vindicator and its sister ship accelerated, cutting off the Kreth vessels before they could reach the damaged colony. "Target their engines," Jack ordered. "Disable them if possible." The human ships fired precisely, crippling 3 of the 5 Kreth vessels. The other 2 turned to fight, launching missiles toward the Vindicator. "Point defense systems," Jack called out. "Don't let anything through." Lasers flashed from the Vindicator's hull, destroying the incoming missiles. Then the human ships fired again, disabling the remaining Kreth vessels. Within 30 minutes, it was over. The Kreth fleet was in ruins, half destroyed, the rest disabled or retreating. Not a single human ship had been lost, though 3 had taken damage. "Colony status?" Jack asked as the last Kreth ship jumped away. "They're safe, Captain," Maya replied, relief in her voice. "Medical teams are already heading to the surface." Jack nodded, then turned to Lisa. "Open a channel. Broadcast on all frequencies." When she nodded, Jack stood up straight, looking directly at the camera. "This is Captain Jack Morgan of Earth Defense Force. To the Kreth Empire and the Galactic Council, hear this message. The attack on our Neptune colony has been stopped. Let it be known that any attack on human settlements will be met with this response." He paused, making sure his next words were clear. "For 50 years, we followed rules meant to keep us weak and vulnerable. That ends today. We will no longer be bound by restrictions that prevent us from protecting our people. Earth is under our protection now." As Jack finished his message, He knew it would reach not just the Kreth, but also the Council observers he was certain were watching from afar. The secret was out. Humanity had broken the treaty, and there was no going back. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice excited, "we're receiving messages from all human colonies. They're cheering, sir." Jack looked around at his crew. Many had tears in their eyes. For the first time in 50 years, humans throughout the solar system felt truly safe. "Sir," Maya said quietly, "what happens now? The Council won't let this go." Jack turned to look at the image of Neptune on the main screen, its blue surface peaceful after the violence that had just unfolded. "Now," he said, "we face the consequences of our choice. But we face them as equals, not as children to be controlled." The Vindicator turned toward the damaged colony, its massive shape silhouetted against Neptune's blue glow, a symbol of humanity's refusal to remain bound by chains they never deserved. Admiral Kate Wilson straightened her uniform as she prepared to enter the Galactic Council's main chamber. 2 weeks had passed since the battle at Neptune. 2 weeks of angry messages, threats, and demands from Council members. Now, Earth would face judgment. "Ready, Admiral?" asked General Tom Hayes, who stood beside her. Kate nodded, her face calm but determined. "As ready as I'll ever be to face a room full of angry aliens." They stood before massive doors decorated with symbols representing the 30 main species of the Council. The human symbol, added just 50 years ago, was the smallest. "Remember the plan," Kate said quietly. "We didn't break the treaty. We responded to its failure. We stand firm on that." The doors swung open, revealing a huge circular chamber. Raised platforms surrounded a central speaking area like a giant bowl. On each platform sat representatives from different species, most looking down at the humans with expressions ranging from anger to fear. Kate and Tom walked to the center of the room, their footsteps echoing. The Earth delegation, 5 humans in total, took their places at the small platform assigned to them. High Counselor Drell, a tall figure with iridescent scales covering his body, rose from his seat. As the oldest member of the Council, he spoke first at all important meetings. "This emergency session will come to order," he said, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "We are here to address Earth's violation of the Treaty of Soul." His large eyes fixed on Kate. "Admiral Wilson, you stand accused of authorizing the construction and use of warships far beyond the Class 3 limit specified in your treaty. These actions represent the most serious violation of Council law in over 3 centuries. Kate stepped forward, her back straight. "High Counselor, members of the Council, I do not deny that Earth has built ships beyond the treaty limits, but I reject the premise that we are the violators here." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Drell's scales flashed with colors that suggested anger. "Explain yourself, Admiral," he demanded. Kate activated a small device she had brought. A hologram appeared, showing the Kreth attack on Neptune, and the Council's messages refusing immediate help. "The Treaty of Soul included promises of protection," Kate said clearly. "When the Kreth attacked our colony, the Council failed to provide that protection. Your nearest ships were supposedly 2 weeks away, later updated to 3 weeks. She paused, looking around the chamber. Article 7 of the treaty clearly states that if Council protection fails, the protected species has the right to defend itself by any means necessary. "Those ships were built before the attack," shouted the Kreth representative, a stocky reptilian figure with a scar across his snout. "You were preparing to break the treaty all along." Kate turned to face him directly. "Our shipyards were inspected regularly by Council observers. If you found evidence of treaty violations, why wasn't it reported?" The chamber erupted in argument. Some Council members shouted accusations, while others demanded proof. High Counselor Drell raised his hands for silence. When the room quieted, he spoke again. "The timing of your shipbuilding is indeed suspicious, Admiral. How could you construct such vessels in the short time between the Kreth approach and the battle?" Kate smiled slightly. I never claimed we built them in 2 weeks, High Counselor. We built them over 50 years, carefully, secretly, and always just beyond where your inspectors looked. More shouting filled the chamber. Kate stood calmly in the center, waiting for it to die down. "Why?" asked a quieter voice. It belonged to Counselor Marin, one of the few council members who had supported human inclusion from the beginning. Unlike most council species, hers looked almost human, except for her silver skin and large, all-black eyes. "Why build these ships in secret?" Marin asked again. "Why not petition the council to remove the restrictions as other species have done?" Kate looked at her directly. "Because 12 other species petitioned for removal of similar restrictions in the last century. All were denied." She activated her device again, showing data on various council decisions. The data shows a clear pattern. New species are restricted, supposedly temporarily. But those restrictions are never lifted, not when they prove themselves peaceful, not when they contribute to council science and culture, not even when they face direct threats. Kate switched the display to show the battle at Neptune. These ships saved thousands of human lives, lives the council was sworn to protect but abandoned. The chamber grew quieter as many council members looked uncomfortable. "I move," said Counselor Marin into the silence, "that we examine the true purpose of these restrictions." All eyes turned to her, not for safety, as we have claimed, Marin continued, but from fear. The Kreth invasion of Earth 50 years ago was the shortest in their history, 3 days before humans drove them back with technology centuries behind their attackers. She looked around the chamber. "We restricted them not because they were dangerous, but because we feared how dangerous they might become." The silence that followed was heavy with tension. Kate stepped forward again. "The Treaty of Soul was designed to keep us vulnerable, not to protect the galaxy from us. When faced with the choice between honoring that treaty and watching our people die, we chose our people." High Counselor Drell's scales had shifted to a more subdued color. "What would you have us do now, Admiral?" "Earth has revealed military capabilities that disturb many council members." "Treat us as equals," Kate replied simply. "Remove the restrictions that were never just. Allow us to defend ourselves and contribute to galactic security as full members, not as controlled children." "And if we refuse?" asked Drell. "Then Earth will protect itself," Kate said, her voice firm, but not threatening. "We don't want to leave the Council. We value the knowledge, trade, and cooperation it provides. But we will not return to vulnerability." The council chamber filled with whispers as members discussed among themselves. After several minutes, Drell spoke again. "This matter requires careful consideration. The council will recess for 3 days. During this time, all parties will refrain from military action." Kate nodded. "Earth agrees to this recess." As the Earth delegation left the chamber, Tom leaned close to Kate. "Do you think they'll expel us?" Kate watched the council members filing out, many deep in conversation. "I don't know, but something has changed. Did you see their faces when Marin spoke? Many of them know she's right." Outside the council station, Captain Jack Morgan waited with the Vindicator. The massive ship wasn't hiding anymore. It floated proudly next to the station, a visible reminder of humanity's newfound strength. "What now, Admiral?" Jack asked as Kate boarded. She looked back at the flower-shaped council station. "Now we wait for their decision. But whatever happens, there's no going back to the way things were. For better or worse, the galaxy now sees what humanity can really do." The Vindicator powered up its engines, preparing to return to Earth. Whatever the Council decided, humanity would face it standing tall, no longer bound by chains they had never deserved. 1 year after the battle at Neptune, Captain Jack Morgan stood in the observation deck of Earth's orbital shipyard. Below him, the blue planet spun peacefully. Above, against the black of space, the newly built ship Reconciliation floated in its docking bay, preparing for its first journey. The Reconciliation was different from the warships of Project Threshold. It was bigger, for one thing, almost 2 kilometers long. But more importantly, It represented something new. The ship was built under the terms of the agreement that humanity had negotiated with the Galactic Council after 3 tense days of deliberation. No more artificial restrictions, no more pretending human ships were weaker than they were. Instead, Earth had agreed to integrate its designs and defense strategies into a joint protection force. "Still can't believe they agreed to our terms," said a voice behind him. Jack turned to see Commander Maya Reed, now wearing the insignia of her new rank. A year ago, they'd fought side by side at Neptune. Now they were preparing for a very different mission. "They didn't have much choice," Jack replied with a small smile. "Once the other restricted species saw what we did, there were too many voices demanding change." That was the truth that had come out during the council meetings. Humans weren't the only species held back by temporary safety measures that somehow never expired. Half a dozen younger spacefaring races had been kept artificially weak through similar treaties. When Earth had broken free, the others had started asking uncomfortable questions. "Do you think the older species have forgiven us yet?" Maya asked, looking up at the massive ship. "Forgiven? No," Jack answered honestly. "But they respect us now, and that's more important." A door slid open, and Admiral Kate Wilson walked onto the observation deck. Her uniform had new insignia too. The symbols of the Joint Defense Command, a new division of the Council's peacekeeping forces. "The Council representatives are boarding," she informed them, including the 3 new human Council members. After the Treaty of Seoul had been officially dissolved, Earth had been granted 3 seats on the Council instead of 1. Recognition of humanity's new status in galactic politics. "How are the Kreth taking it?" Jack asked. Kate's expression hardened slightly. "They're still protesting the new security arrangement, but they've backed down on their territory claims near Neptune. Having our ships patrolling that border seems to have changed their minds." Jack nodded, turning back to look at the reconciliation. The ship wasn't just a human achievement. It contained technology and designs from 6 different species, the beginning of a truly united defense force. "It's time," Kate said. "The ceremony starts in 30 minutes." As they walked toward the main airlock where they would board the ship, they passed by viewports showing the construction of more vessels. Some were warships, now built openly. Others were research vessels and diplomatic ships. All represented humanity's new place in the galaxy. "I heard some interesting news yesterday," Kate said as they walked. 3 more species have petitioned to have their treaty restrictions lifted. The Council is actually considering it. "Progress," Jack commented with satisfaction. The truth had changed everything. The older Council races had restricted newer species not for safety, but from fear of competition. Now that the system was exposed, it couldn't continue. They reached the main ceremony hall of the reconciliation where hundreds of people, humans and aliens alike, had gathered. At the center of the room stood a podium where the ship's captain would speak before their maiden voyage. "Captain Morgan," Kate said formally, "your ship awaits." Jack looked at her in surprise. "My ship?" Kate smiled. Rare for her, the Council and Earth government agreed. "You're being promoted to fleet captain, and the reconciliation is yours to command. Who better to lead this new beginning than the man who helped make it possible?" Jack felt a lump in his throat as Kate handed him the captain's insignia for the ship. "There's one more thing," Kate added. "The first mission. The reconciliation will be taking representatives from Earth and 5 other previously restricted species to establish a new defense outpost at the edge of Kreth space. A reminder that the old ways are over." As Jack took his place near the podium, he looked out at the gathered crowd. There were humans in their blue uniforms, tall Volari with their 4 arms, crystalline Tauri floating in their atmosphere suits, and many others. Even a few Kreth representatives stood at the back, their scaled faces unreadable. High Counselor Drell approached the podium. The old alien looked smaller somehow, less imposing than he had seemed in the council chamber a year ago. "1 year ago," Drell began, his voice carrying through the hall, "we faced a crisis of our own making. For too long, The Council had maintained a system that claimed to protect, but actually controlled. The human showed us the flaw in that system. He paused, looking at Jack. Some called it rebellion. I have come to see it as correction. The reconciliation represents our new path forward, genuine cooperation, not control. When it was Jack's turn to speak, he kept his words simple. A year ago, we broke boundaries that had held us back. Today, we establish new boundaries, not walls to keep us apart, but frameworks to bring us together. The reconciliation is more than a ship. It's a promise that all species, old and new, have a right to protect themselves and a duty to protect each other. As applause filled the room, Jack looked out at Earth through the large viewports. From space, you couldn't see borders or divisions. Just one world, turning in the light of its sun. The old council had thought they were containing a threat when they restricted human ships. They didn't realize they were creating something much more powerful, a species that refused to be bound by fear and in breaking free, showed others they could do the same. Some species shouldn't be caged, not because they might escape, but because of what they might become when they do. As the reconciliation prepared to depart on its mission, Jack knew this wasn't just an ending to the old story. It was the beginning of something new. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as the newest member to be controlled, but as equals who had earned their right to sail the dark between worlds in ships of their own making. The limits were broken, and they would not be rebuilt.